He laughed. "A fine thing to say to the brother who took you in off the street. Besides, I shall never marry. I'm far too old and grey." She gave him a sour look. Her brother was tall and vigorous, and looked 10 years younger than he was. Many called him handsome, and unlike in Margaret's case, it was meant in a complimentary way. "You're hardly grey at all, and unlike women, men can marry whenever they want." He scoffed. "Not true. Not that I intend to marry. I prefer the bachelor life." This was probably true. For as long as Margaret could remember, Francis had been determined to chart his own course. From the moment he reached adulthood and bolted for London, she'd heard the slightly shocked whispers about him, although, due to the age gap between them, she didn't understand the stories at first. He really had been a rake and a scoundrel, but Margaret also knew him to be fiercely loyal and protective. He would make a good husband, if only he set his mind to it. "I'll poison us both if you expect me to live with you forever," she said. "You'll marry, you'd make a good father, you would, Francis, don't scowl at me, and some day you'll want a steady companion for your old age, and I shan't be her," she added as he started to smirk. "You're a romantic," he pointed a fork at her. "Take my word for it, marriage isn't like that rot poets and novelists portray. It's a damned cage. Some don't realize it until the door is locked tight behind them, but they're prisoners all the same." She sighed. "Don't worry, I'm not likely to ever know the difference." As often happens, however, fate conspired against both of them. In the spring, their distant cousin Arthur died of consumption. Margaret read the news in the paper and pointed it out to Francis, who merely grunted. Neither had ever met Arthur, due to the long-standing breach in their family, and neither paid much heed to the news of his death, until a fortnight later, when a letter arrived. It caused a bit of a stir in the household, arriving in the hand of a tall, stone-faced footman, wearing the buff and green livery of the Duke of Durham. Margaret studied the crest embossed in the smear of wax sealing the missive. The Duke was the late Arthur's father and great-uncle to Margaret and Francis. Not that it had ever mattered before. They hadn't spoken to that side of the family in Margaret's lifetime. But something about this letter made her skin prickle with premonition. When Francis returned home, he read the letter in silence. "Durham requests my presence," was all he would tell her, but Margaret was no fool. She slipped into Francis's study and read the peerage until she realized exactly what must be on Durham's mind. Arthur's older brother Philip had died years ago, and the Duke had no more sons. Margaret's grandfather had been the Duke's younger brother, and her father had been his only son, who in turn had only one son, her brother. Francis was the new heir presumptive to the dukedom of Durham. "Don't make too much of it," he warned when she confronted him about it. "Durham is a bitter old man. I wouldn't put it past him to have a new young bride within the week, trying to sire another son." "He's 90. "And he hated our grandfather," Francis said coldly. "Don't underestimate the curative powers of spite." But Durham didn't or couldn't find a young bride in time. By that autumn he contracted a slow-wasting disease. Late one night in the dead of winter, a tall, spare man knocked on the de Lacey townhouse door. "I bring news," he announced in a deep voice that carried up the stairs to where Margaret hovered, shamelessly eavesdropping while Francis went down to see the caller. "His Grace, the Duke of Durham, has died this evening. By patent, the title and its encumbrances descend to you." A pause. "Your Grace." Margaret never heard Francis's reply. The air seemed to have left the room. She sank to the stairs, gasping for breath.